Welcome to Natural Holistic Living, the channel that guides you to a healthier you. Today we're diving into the hidden dangers of a popular superfood, salmon. Often hailed as a dietary champion, this superfood has become a staple in people's diets, from sushi rolls to delightful fillets. But what if I told you that this vibrantly colored fish is doing your body an unimaginable amount of harm? Salmon has been marketed as the ultimate superfood, rich in essential nutrients like omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, and vitamin B12. And while this is true for natural wild-caught salmon, the majority of what we consume is the most toxic food you can eat. Most of the salmon you see in supermarkets, often referred to as Atlantic or Norwegian salmon, is farmed, mass-produced in conditions that are far from natural. But at what cost? Now you might be wondering, why does it matter if the salmon is farmed or wild? Well, the answer lies in the conditions these fish are raised in, and the impact it has on their health, and ultimately, ours. But the real kicker, the bright red color that has become synonymous with salmon, is often nothing more than a ruse, used to trick consumers into thinking they're buying a healthy salmon. Are you ready to uncover the truth about the dangers of the well-known and beloved salmon? Stay tuned. Ever wondered where your salmon comes from? Let's delve into the world of salmon farming. The salmon you find in supermarkets, often referred to as Atlantic salmon, is mass-produced in these farms. But the conditions under which these salmon are bred are horrible. Imagine a world where salmon are packed together in confined tanks, surrounded by diseases and toxins. Farmed salmon live in such an environment, with their living conditions being so poor that more than 15 to 20% of them die before they can reach your plate. These dead fish often remain in the same space as the living ones for extended periods, creating a breeding ground for these diseases and toxins. To combat this, the fish are sprayed and fed daily with neurotoxic pesticides such as azamethopos, deltamethrin, hydrogen peroxide, and are pumped full of antibiotics to keep the fish barely alive. These substances are so harmful that the workers on salmon farms have to wear extensive protective clothing like gas masks and airtight suits to carry out their jobs. The pesticides are not just harmful to the salmon, but also to the ecosystem and species that come into contact with them. The conditions and the chemicals cause farmed salmon to rapidly develop genetic mutations, making them barely recognizable. This is a stark contrast to the vibrant, healthy wild salmon we imagine, the champions of the sea, as they can go on epic journeys of over 8,000 kilometers or 5,000 miles across the ocean. Not only are these farms detrimental to the salmon they breed, but they also pose a risk to wild salmon populations. Escaped farmed salmon or spills can lead to the spread of diseases and genetic contamination, threatening the survival of wild salmon like in Scotland, where their wild salmons are facing near extinction. The real kicker? It would be very easy to see the difference when we buy these salmon if they weren't dyed extensively. Farmed salmon are a nasty-looking gray color, due to their living conditions and inactivity. Salmon dye is big business and comes in many shades which are heavily invested in by farmers. The brighter the color, the healthier it seems. From heart problems to fertility issues, farmed salmon can pose a serious risk to your health. As it turns out, the salmon that graces our plates more often than not is far from the superfood we imagine it to be. The farmed variety, particularly those from places like Norway, can be a Trojan horse of potential health problems. The most shocking of these is the risk posed to women. Regular consumption of farmed salmon has been linked to an increased risk of stroke, a cardiovascular event that can lead to long-term disability or even death. Women are particularly susceptible, with studies indicating a clear correlation between the intake of farmed salmon and stroke incidents. But the threats don't end there. Heart problems are another serious concern. The high levels of contaminants found in farmed salmon can lead to a buildup of plaque in the arteries, increasing the risk of heart disease. And then there's the issue of fertility. Some studies point to a potential link between the consumption of farmed salmon and fertility problems. The pesticides and antibiotics used in salmon farming can interfere with hormonal balance, potentially affecting reproductive health. These risks are not to be taken lightly. In fact, the concerns are so significant that certain countries have taken decisive action. Austria and New Zealand, for example, have outright banned farmed salmon. These bans are a clear testament to the potential harm these fish can cause, and a wake-up call for us to consider what we're really consuming. So given all this, you might be wondering, with all these risks, what are the safe alternatives to farmed salmon? For now, remember, not all salmon is created equal. The next time you're at the supermarket or a restaurant, think twice before you opt for that salmon dish. Your health may depend on it. Fear not, health enthusiasts, there are safe and delicious alternatives to farmed salmon. Have you ever heard of wild Alaskan salmon? This is the gold standard when it comes to salmon. These fish lead lives that are as natural as it gets. They swim freely in the vast, clean waters of Alaska, feasting on a diet rich in nutrients. This is why wild Alaskan salmon is so high in omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D and vitamin B12. They're not just good for you, they're also incredibly delicious, with a robust flavor that farmed salmon simply can't match. If you're worried about finding wild Alaska salmon in your local grocery store, here's a tip. Look for the dark blue sticker, the mark of the Marine Stewardship Council, or MSC. The MSC is an international non-profit organization that sets the standard for sustainable fishing. When you see their blue sticker on a package of salmon, you can be confident that the fish inside were caught in a way that respects the health of the world's oceans and the creatures that live in them. Avoid salmon labeled as Atlantic or Norwegian. These are almost always farmed and carry with them the health risks we've discussed. It might take a little more effort and money to find wild Alaskan salmon or MSC certified salmon, but the benefits to your health make it worth the search. And remember, you can always ask. If you're at a restaurant or a fish market, ask if the salmon is wild caught or farmed. Any reputable business should be able to provide this information. Let's not lose hope in our diets, but be more mindful of what we buy. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for our next video and subscribe to our channel.